Hello and welcome to the session on emotions and coping strategies. The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart. These are the words of Helen Keller, world's first deaf, dumb and blind degree holder. Well, how do we feel them? Feelings arise as a result of the brain's interpretation of emotions. What then are emotions? Today, we shall deal with the concept of emotions, a quick overview of some of the dominating psychological theories in regard to emotion, and finally and most importantly on strategies to cope with emotions. The term emotion is derived from the Latin word emovere, which means to stir up, agitate, excite or move. Emotions are generally referred to as stirred up condition involving subjective experience and affective reactions. They may be pleasant like joy or unpleasant like aggression, fear, etc. In psychology, emotion is often defined as a complex state of feeling that results in physical and psychological changes that influence thought and behavior. According to author David G. Meyers, human emotion involves physiological arousal, expressive behaviors and conscious experience. Let us now see the nature of emotions. Emotion is a subjective feeling, and the experience of emotion varies from person to person in their intensity as high and low and quality as happiness, sadness or fear. Each emotion has three basic aspects: cognitive, physiological and behavioral or cultural aspect. Let us discuss each of these in slight detail. The first aspect is the cognitive aspect. Experiencing emotions involves thoughts, beliefs and expectations. Every emotional experience requires a conscious interpretation of the arousal. It is difficult to understand emotion without considering cognition. Consider the elements that go up to make up the reaction when you know that your tooth needs a root canal. It is your beliefs or knowledge about the nature of root canal operations that lead to the anxiety. The emotional reaction has followed on the heels of cognition in the form of beliefs and knowledge. If you had already experienced a root canal procedure and found that it was easy and painless, then your beliefs would be different and you would not be anxious. Now let us consider the physiological aspect. Every experience of emotion involves a physiological activation. For instance, when we are angry, our face becomes reddish, nostrils and jaws stiffen and our voice becomes loud, high-pitched and hoarse. When we are afraid, our eyelids are widely open and face turns pale and knees may tremble. Increase in heartbeat and blood pressure occurs and sometimes slight stomach ache is also felt. The conductivity of our skin to electric current increases. Both the autonomic as well as somatic nervous systems play important roles in the emotional process. The experience of emotions is a result of neurophysiological activations in which thalamus, hypothalamus, limbic system and the cerebral cortex are involved significantly. Individuals with injury in these brain areas have been known to demonstrate impaired emotional abilities. Now let us consider the third aspect, the behavioral or cultural aspect. Studies have revealed that the most basic emotions are inborn and do not have to be learned. Psychologists largely have a notion that emotions, especially facial expressions, have strong biological ties. For example, children who are visually impaired from birth and have never observed the smile or seen another person's face still smile or frown in the same way that children with normal vision do. But on comparing different cultures, we see that learning plays an important role in emotions. This happens in two ways. First, cultural learning influences the expression of emotions more than what is experienced. For example, some cultures encourage free emotional expression, whereas other cultures teach people through modeling and reinforcement to reveal little of their emotions in public. Second, learning has a great deal to do with the stimuli that produced emotional reactions. It has been shown that individuals with excessive fears of elevators, automobiles and the like learn these fears through modeling, classical conditioning or avoidance conditioning. Subjective factors and situational context influence the experience of emotions. Now, let us look at what are the different types of emotions. There are many different types of emotions that have an influence on how we live and interact with others. Psychologists have also tried to identify the different types of emotions that people experience. A few different theories have emerged to categorize and explain the emotions that people feel. Let us look at the basic emotions. During the 1970s, psychologist Paul Ekman identified 6 basic emotions and suggested that they were universally experienced in all human cultures. The emotions he identified were happiness, sadness, disgust, fear, surprise and anger. He later expanded his list of basic emotions to include such things as pride, shame, embarrassment and excitement. Combined emotions. Psychologist Robert Plutchik put forward a wheel of emotions that works something like the color wheel. Emotions can be combined to form different feelings, much like colors can be mixed to create other shades. According to this theory, the more basic emotions act something like building blocks. More complex, sometimes mixed emotions are blendings of these more basic emotions. For example, basic emotions such as joy and trust can be combined to create love. Robert Plutchik created a wheel of emotions in 1980 which consisted of 8 basic emotions and 8 advanced emotions, each composed of 2 basic ones as can be seen in the figure. Let's take a closer look at some of the basic types of emotions and explore the impact they have on human behavior. The first one is happiness. Pleasure or happiness is a positive emotion which gives satisfaction to the person who experiences it. Pleasure is the reaction to the satisfaction of a need or attainment of a goal. When we are happy, we smile and laugh, and there is a clear expression of satisfaction on our faces. While happiness is considered one of the basic human emotions, the things we think will create happiness tend to be heavily influenced by culture. Happiness has been linked to a variety of outcomes including increased longevity and increased marital satisfaction. Conversely, unhappiness is evident through stress, anxiety, depression, loneliness, etc., and has been linked to a variety of poor health outcomes. Let us see the next basic emotion, affection. It is a pleasant emotional reaction directed towards a person, an animal or an object. The most primitive basis of affection is associated with warmth of mother's body and being fondled and cuddled. Learning plays an important role in determining the persons or objects to which child's affection becomes attached. Affectionate responses are shown in an outgoing, striving and approach behaviors and is expressed by patting, hugging, verbal expression, protecting and helping the loved one. Yet another basic emotion is fear. Fear is caused by situations which are perceived as physically threatening. Fear is a powerful emotion that can also play an important role in survival. When you face some sort of danger and experience fear, you go through what is known as the fight or flight response. This response helps ensure that you are prepared to effectively deal with threats in your environment. Maturation, personal experiences, and conditioning contribute to the development of fear. You must have noticed other similar types of fear among your friends, such as fear of lizards, darkness, etc. When fears become very strong, they are called phobias. They are unfounded fears. Usually, people try to escape fearful situations by running away from them. But there are also people, on the other hand, who actually seek out fear-provoking situations. Extreme sports and other thrills can be fear-inducing, but some people seem to thrive and even enjoy such feelings. Repeated exposure as an exposure therapy to a fear object or situation can lead to familiarity and acclimation and hence reduce feelings of fear and anxiety. Let us look at the next emotion, sadness. Sadness is another type of emotion often defined as a transient emotional state characterized by feelings of disappointment, grief, hopelessness, disinterest, and dampened mood. Like other emotions, sadness is something that all people experience from time to time, and a prolonged severe exposure can turn into depression. Now, let us look at anxiety. Anxiety is a state of painful discomfort of mind. During anxiety, a vague fear or apprehension occurs. High level of anxiety is destructive for our performance and health. In extreme cases, anxiety may take the form of a mental disorder. Yet another basic emotion is disgust. Disgust is a sense of revulsion that can originate from a number of things, including an unpleasant taste, sight, or smell. Poor hygiene, infection, blood, rot, and death can also trigger a disgust response. People can also experience moral disgust when they observe others engaging in behaviors that they find distasteful, immoral, or evil. Anger. Anger can be a particularly powerful emotion characterized by feelings of hostility, agitation, frustration, and antagonism towards others. Like fear, anger can play a part in your body's fight or flight response. When a threat generates feelings of anger, you may be inclined to fend off the danger and protect yourself. While anger is often thought of as a negative emotion, it can sometimes be a good thing. It can be constructive in helping clarify your needs in a relationship, and it can also motivate you to take action and find solution to things that are bothering you. Anger can become a problem, however, when it is excessive or expressed in ways that are unhealthy, dangerous, or harmful to others. Uncontrolled anger can quickly turn to aggression, abuse, or violence. One of the last basic emotions is surprise. Surprise, originally described by Ekman, is quite brief and is characterized by a physiological startled response following something unexpected. This type of emotion can be positive, negative, or neutral. An unpleasant surprise, for example, might involve a surprise class test. An example of a pleasant surprise would be the arrival of a close friend at your home. When surprised, people may experience a burst of adrenaline that helps prepare the body to either fight or flee. Other types of emotions. Ekman later added a number of other emotions to his list, but suggested that unlike his original emotions, not all of these could necessarily be encoded through facial expressions. Some of the emotions he later identified include amusement, contentment, excitement, contempt, embarrassment, relief, pride, guilt, satisfaction, shame, and so on. Let us now take a tour through the theories of emotion. The evolutionary theory of emotion. Naturalist Charles Darwin proposed that emotions evolved because they were adaptive and allowed humans and animals to survive and reproduce. Feelings of love and affection lead people to seek mates and reproduce. Feelings of fear compel people to either fight or flee the source of danger. Emotions motivate people to respond quickly to stimuli in the environment, which helps improve the chances of success and survival. Understanding the emotions of other people and animals also plays a crucial role in safety and survival. By being able to interpret correctly the emotional displays of other people and animals, you can respond correctly and avoid danger. Let us look at the next theory of emotion, the James Lange theory of emotion. This theory is one of the best known examples of a physiological theory of emotion independently proposed by psychologist William James and physiologist Carl Lange. The James Lange theory of emotion suggests that emotions occur as a result of physiological reactions to events. Your emotional reaction is dependent on how you interpret those physical reactions. For example, suppose you are walking in the woods and you see an elephant. You begin to tremble and your heart begins to race. The James Lange theory proposes that you will interpret your physical reactions and conclude that you are frightened. I am trembling, therefore I am frightened. According to this theory of emotion, you are not trembling because you are frightened. Instead, you feel frightened because you are trembling. Yet another theory of emotion is the Cannon-Bard theory of emotion. Cannon first proposed his theory in the 1920s, and his work was later expanded on by physiologist Philip Bard during the 1930s. They claimed we feel emotions and experience physiological reactions such as sweating, trembling and muscle tension simultaneously. That is to say, the physical and psychological experience of emotion happen at the same time, and that one does not cause the other. More specifically, it is suggested that emotions result when the thalamus sends a message to the brain in response to a stimulus, resulting in a physiological reaction. At the same time, the brain also receives signals triggering the emotional experience. Let us look at another theory of emotion, the Sasser-Singer theory. Also known as the two-factor theory of emotion, this theory is a cognitive theory of emotion. This theory suggests that the physiological arousal occurs first, and then the individual must identify the reason for this arousal to experience and label it as an emotion. A stimulus leads to a physiological response that is then cognitively interpreted and labeled, which results in an emotion. Sasser's and Singer's theory draws on both the earlier two theories. Like the James Lange theory, the Sasser-Singer theory proposes that people do infer emotions based on physiological responses. The critical factor is the situation and the cognitive interpretation that people use to label that emotion. Like the Cannon-Bard theory, the Sasser-Singer theory also suggests that similar physiological responses can produce varying emotions. For example, if you experience a racing heart and sweating palms during an important math exam, you will probably identify the emotion as anxiety. If you experience the same physical responses on a date with your significant other, you might interpret those responses as love, affection or arousal. Another theory is the cognitive appraisal theory. According to appraisal theories of emotions, thinking must occur first before experiencing emotion. Richard Lazarus was a pioneer in this area of emotion, and this theory is often referred to as the Lazarus theory of emotion. According to this theory, the sequence of events first involves a stimulus, followed by thought, which then leads to the simultaneous experience of a physiological response and the emotion. For example, if you encounter a bear in the woods, you might immediately begin to think that you are in great danger. This then leads to the emotional experience of fear, and the physical reactions associated with the fight or flight response. The last theory of emotion is the facial feedback theory. The facial feedback theory of emotions suggests that facial expressions are connected to experiencing emotions. Charles Darwin and William James both noted early that sometimes physiological responses often had a direct impact on emotion rather than simply being a consequence of the emotion. Supporters of this theory suggest that emotions are directly tied to changes in facial muscles. For example, people who are forced to smile pleasantly at a social function will have a better time at the event than they would if they had frowned or carried a more neutral facial expression. Let us now move on to the expression of emotions. Do you get to know that your friend is happy or sad or indifferent? Does she express your feelings? Emotions is an internal experience not directly observable by others. Emotions are inferred from verbal and non-verbal expressions. The key forms of emotional expression include startled response. Walk quietly up to your friend when he or she is in deep thought and yell. You will notice rapid closing of eyes and widening of the mouth. The chin tilts up and the arms and legs are bent. This response is an inborn response. Yet another way is using facial expressions. Each emotion has its characteristic facial expression. The eye, nose, lips and forehead twist and twitch and take different shapes. The facial expressions show three dimensions of emotional expression: pleasantness, unpleasantness. The facial expressions represent feeling of pleasantness through smile and laughter, or unpleasantness as in a sad look. Attention, rejection. Attention is expressed by wide open eyes and an open mouth. Rejection shows contraction of eyes, lips and nostrils. Sleep, tension. It refers to the level of relaxation and tenseness or excitement as found when you are asleep and when you are angry and anxious. Another way of expression is through the vocals. People express emotions with the help of voice also. You must have noticed that your voice trembles and breaks when you are sad. You groan when you are in pain. Your voice is loud and high pitched while in anger. Gestures and postures. The gestures and postures displayed during joy differ from those that happen during sorrow. In sorrow, you slump your face down. In joy, you hold your head high and take an upright posture. In fear, you either run or are rooted to the spot. We learn gestures and postures from the people around us. Therefore, societies may have different ways of expressing emotions. Managing negative emotions. Emotions form the very fabric of our life and interpersonal relations. Emotions exist on a continuum. There are various intensities of an emotion that can be experienced by us. You can experience extreme elation or slight happiness, severe grief or just pensiveness. However, most of us usually maintain a balance of emotions. Under demanding and stressful conditions, a lot of negative emotions like fear, anxiety, disgust, etc. develop in an individual to a considerable extent. Such negative emotions, if allowed to prevail for a long time, are likely to affect adversely the person's psychological and physical health. This is the reason why most of the stress management programs emphasize emotion management as an integral part of stress management. The major focus of emotion management techniques is the reduction of negative emotions and enhancing positive emotions. Though most researchers focus their attention on negative emotions like anger, fear, anxiety, Recently, the field of positive psychology has gained much prominence, which concerns itself with the study of features that enrich life like hope, happiness, creativity, courage, optimism, cheerfulness, etc. Effective emotion management is the key to effective social functioning in modern times. The following tips might prove useful for achieving the desired balance of emotions. Enhance self-awareness by being aware of one's own emotions and feelings. Try to gain insight into the how and why of your feelings. Next, appraise the situation objectively. Emotion is preceded by evaluation of the event. If the event is experienced as disturbing, your sympathetic nervous system is activated and you feel stressed. If you do not experience the event as disturbing, then there is no stress. However, it is you who decides whether to feel sad and anxious or happy and relaxed. Next, do some self-monitoring by constant or periodic evaluation of your past accomplishments, emotional and physical states, real and vicarious experience. A positive appraisal would enhance your faith in yourself and lead to enhanced feeling of wellness and contentment. Another strategy is to engage in self-modeling. Be the ideal for yourself. Repeatedly observe the best part of your past performance and use them as an inspiration and motivation to perform better in the future. Another is try to achieve a Gestalt view of situations that create emotional disturbance and ask why whatever happened the way it happened. Another strategy is perceptual reorganization and cognitive restructuring. Try viewing the events differently and visualize the other side of the coin. Restructure your thoughts to enhance positive and reassuring feelings and eliminate negative thoughts. Be creative, find and develop an interest or a hobby. Engage in an activity that interests and amuses you. Next, or another strategy is to develop and nurture good relationships. Choose your friends carefully. In the company of happy and cheerful friends, you will feel happy in general. Have empathy. Try understanding others' feelings too. Make your relationships meaningful and valuable. Seek as well as provide support mutually. Another strategy is to participate in community service. Help yourself by helping others. By doing community service, for example, helping an intellectually challenged child learn an adaptive skill, you will gain important insights about your own difficulties. Also, remember to maintain health with good sleep, exercises so that hormones in the body function in balance and repair takes sufficiently in the body. Another major key point is to manage your anger. Anger is a negative emotion. It carries the mind away, or in other words, the person loses control on behavioral functions during the state of anger. The major source of anger is the frustration of motives. However, anger is not a reflex, rather it is a result of our thinking. Neither is it automatic nor uncontrollable and caused by others, but it is a self-induced choice that the individual makes. Anger is a result of your thinking and hence controllable by your thoughts only. Certain key points in anger management are as follows. Recognize the power of your thoughts, realize you alone can control it. Do not engage in self-talk that burns. Do not magnify negative feelings. Do not ascribe intentions and ulterior motives to others. Resist having irrational beliefs about people and events. Try to find constructive ways of expressing your anger. Have control on the degree and duration of anger that you choose to express. Look inward not outward for anger control. Give yourself time to change. It takes time and effort to change a habit. Equally important is enhancing positive emotions. Excessive or inappropriate use of negative emotions can become life-threatening to us, as it can harm our immune system and have serious consequences for our health. Positive emotions such as hope, joy, optimism, contentment and gratitude energize us and enhance our sense of emotional well-being. Positive emotions give us a greater ability to cope with adverse circumstances and quickly return to a normal state. They help us set up long-term plans and goals and form new relationships. Various ways of enhancing positive emotions are also given. Develop personality traits of optimism, hopefulness, happiness and a positive self-regard. Find positive meanings in dire circumstances. Have quality connections with others and supportive network of close relationships. Being engaged in work and gaining mastery. A faith that embodies social support, purpose and hope, leading a life of purpose. And most importantly, positive interpretations of most daily events. Let us sum up this session. We are now familiar with what emotions are and that their function is to give information to the individual about their interaction with the world and is expressed through verbal and non-verbal channels. In recent years, the gap between cognition or rationality and emotions is being bridged. Thus, one needs to understand one's own and others' emotions and learn to express, control and manage emotions effectively in order to ensure physical and psychological well-being. Well, at this juncture, I think it appropriate to quote Oscar Wilde. I don't want to be at the mercy of my emotions. I want to use them, to enjoy them and to dominate them. So dear friends, relish your emotions and have a nice day. Thank you.